The fall DIY season is finally here, and in today's video, I put together some of my favorite Dollar Tree fall DIYs, tips, tricks, and hacks for you to decorate your home on a budget but still make it really beautiful. There's going to be a bunch of free printables as well, so be sure to stay tuned for the whole video. All right, we have a lot to get through, so let's jump right into the first DIY. Dollar Tree usually sells some form of this frame either seasonally or year-round, and one of my favorite hacks is just to purchase these and put in my own photo. So these are really pretty as is, but I love to customize them, and you don't even have to worry about taking out the board. All you have to do is just cut your photo to size and glue it in place. So I actually have 5 free printables for you guys. I'm going to leave them linked down below. They're just located on my blog, and I'll just show you them real quick. So these are the first 2 on the first page. These 2 are probably my personal favorite. They're pretty neutral, but still look really nice. First, I had to include a few pictures for all of my fellow coffee lovers out there. I think that these signs are perfect to put by a Keurig or a small coffee bar area. You can even just use this here as the size template. So these are all made perfectly to fit into this frame. And if you want to go ahead and just print this out so you have that template already, and then you can use the template to cut out a picture of your family, maybe a pet, and it will fit into this frame. Found that this works best when you print it out on either cardstock or a thicker paper. That way it's going to block the image that already comes standard in the frame. So you can see here, these fit in really nicely. And if you want it so it's not permanent, if you want to be able to change out your photo, you can just put some double-sided tape or even regular tape to hold your picture in place, or you can even use a little bit of hot glue in the corners or even a glue stick. In just a few minutes, you have a really adorable customized sign. All right, moving on to the next one. This is going to be a great DIY if you are a coffee lover like me, or if you have a friend or family member that is, this could make an amazing gift. So I'm going to be using these candles from the Dollar Tree. I also got some of their wax melts. This is going to do 2 things. It's going to help change the color of the wax, but also it's going to give it a beautiful scent. Pumpkin chai one is one of my personal favorites. So what we want to do is melt our wax. We're going to be making a customized candle, and to melt your wax in these containers here, all you have to do is put them in a big pot of water, but you want to make sure that you are putting your water on low temperature. We don't want to boil these. We just want to slowly and carefully melt the wax. That way we can pour it into a new container. So what I'm doing here is just once I had my first candle completely melted, I added in my wax melts. And this is going to kind of deepen that color and also just make that entire candle really fragrant. For our new container, I'm going to be using this glass mug from Dollar Tree, and these are awesome as is if you just want to pick up some of these for your coffee bar. I think they're so beautiful. But first, we do need to add a wick to our new container. Now, there's 2 things you can do here. You can just reuse the wick that comes in the candle. You just have to take it out carefully with a popsicle stick. You can wipe it off and reuse it, and that is totally fine. I just happen to have a bag of wicks already on hand. I order these from Amazon. I'll leave them linked down below. Sometimes they come with a sticky dot and you can just attach it to the bottom. I just use hot glue. So now you can see here, I'm starting to pour in my wax. The container on the right is the one with the pumpkin chai meltables in it. That's why it has that beautiful orange color. And I am pouring both of them in at the same time together. That way the wax has a chance to mix. But my container on the left, that was just the clear wax. I am reserving a small bit of that. And that is because we are going to put that on the top of our container at the very end to look like the foam of our little latte. So I'm going to save this one here. You might want to pop it back in that container of water just to keep it warm and melted while this part is hardening. You do have to wait for this to harden quite a bit before you add your second layer on top. So now I'm going to go ahead and just pour the rest of my clear melted wax on top. That way when it hardens, you're going to be able to see that color difference. Now it looks like the perfect latte. I did also want to mention that when you are handling the glass container of melted wax, you want to make sure to use caution. They do get warm in that water, so of course you want to use protective either gloves or oven mitts on your hands if it is still hot. Usually I'll just give my glass a few minutes to cool down. That way I can handle it very carefully with bare hands. But of course, use your own discretion. And when it is completely hardened like this, you can go ahead and trim your wick. And I wanted to share a really easy hack for you guys. If you want to decorate the outside of your candle, window clings work great. This is just a little pumpkin window cling from Dollar Tree, but they have a bunch to choose from. So if you want to just add a little bit of something extra, check out the window clings. There are so many to choose from. I personally love it just like this, but I do think that this is a perfect gift to give your fellow coffee lover. And speaking of window clings, I have a really easy hack for you. So I picked up these frames from Dollar Tree, but you can do this hack with any glass frame. So you'll see it's almost like a floating frame, and these are going to make your window clings really look special. So all you have to do for this particular frame is remove the kickstand first, and then you can take out those glass plates. And what I like to do with these is just to put some of my window clings in the middle of them, and it's really going to make them look almost like they're floating, and it kind of just gives it a really cool effect. I like to buy window clings to use in a lot of different DIYs. So for instance, in this set here, I had used the pickup truck that these came with in a larger DIY, and I had these left over. But this is a great way to reuse those smaller ones if you're not really sure where to put them or how to incorporate them into a DIY. You can just frame them into these glass frames, and it definitely adds a nice little pop of color on a small bookshelf or even a side table. This next tip is one of my favorites, and it's one I talk about all the time on my channel. If something is looking a little bit old or run down and you just want to transform it, grab a can of spray paint. It is going to just completely change the look of something and really breathe new life into it. So for instance, I had picked up these pumpkins at Dollar Tree and they weren't looking so great. All of the ones on the shelf kind of had a bunch of imperfections, and the paint job was just a little bit messy. So all I had to do was grab my can of spray paint, give these 2 coats, and I think that these look so much better. Gold is one of my favorite colors to use in the fall. I think it's really easy to kind of mix in with my existing fall colors, and it's beautiful for just a gorgeous pop. And now with the gold, you can definitely see all the details that this pumpkin has. With the color it was before, a lot of the details were just getting lost, but now it really has a chance to shine, and I think it looks so much more high-end. Another way to use this hack to transform an item is almost to do the opposite. So if you find an item that you love, like these little owls here from Dollar Tree, but the color palette is just not going to work in your home, you can totally transform these with some spray paint. So for this project, I actually just wanted to kind of tone down the look. These colors were a little bit too bright for me personally, and I wasn't loving the glossy finish on the owls. So all I had to do was grab a can of matte white spray paint, give these 2 coats, and it definitely made it look a lot more high-end and more neutral, so I could very easily incorporate it into my decor. Another tip I have that I find helpful is to add a cork bottom to the bottom of my objects that I spray paint. So this is just to protect any surface I might be placing these onto, and I find that these cork adhesive little squares work perfectly for this. These are from Amazon. I'm going to leave everything linked down below that you see in today's video, so all of the paint colors and all of the different items I might be incorporating into my DIYs. But Dollar Tree does also sell larger sheets of adhesive cork, so you can definitely check there too. So I just like to kind of measure out my item. They're really easy to cut with a scissor, and then since they are self-adhesive, you can just stick them on, and that way you know whatever surface you are putting these onto is going to be completely protected. Next up is a DIY for these pickup trucks that Dollar Tree usually has year-round. So every year in the seasonal department, you might see the wood pickup truck that either has the pumpkins in the back, sometimes it's the one with the Christmas tree. These ones here are the ones that they keep in the crafter square. So usually you can find these at all different times of the year, and they are wonderful because they are so neutral, so you can really customize them however you like. So to get started, I'm just going to be painting mine with some matte white spray paint. That is going to give us the perfect base to decorate these and add some really fun little details. And to add those details, I just like to use some acrylic paint. And it really doesn't take much since most of the work was already done for us with that white spray paint. So I just used my dark brown to paint the crate in the back of the pickup truck, and then a more kind of neutral tan color for the tires. And then just for a little bit of flair, I'm adding a pumpkin to the side of my pickup truck. Instead of hand painting a pumpkin, you could always use a small window cling or even just a picture of a pumpkin that you cut out and then just adhere it to the pickup truck with some Mod Podge. So now that my pickup truck is completely dry, I'm going to take a foam floral block, cut it in half, and just hot glue it to one of my trucks. And then I'm going to add my second truck on top. The only tip I have for this is when you add that second pickup truck on top, you're going to want to kind of squeeze it together, but then you want to stand it up right away so you can make sure all 4 tires are touching your surface. That way your truck can stand evenly before that glue has time to completely dry. So then I just added a little bit of hot glue on top of that foam floral block and put on some raffia. You can find raffia at Dollar Tree. Spanish moss would also work as well, and usually that can be found in Dollar Tree's floral department. So next, I'm just going to take these 2 sweater pumpkin picks and add them to the back of my truck. Dollar Tree has so many different pumpkins to choose from. You don't even have to use the ones on these sticks. You can even use their small mini plush pumpkins and just hot glue those into place. But I really liked the look of these. The only issue was the pick was a little bit too long, so I did just have to kind of mark out where I had to trim them so they would fit into the back of my truck. And since we did use that foam floral block, these can very easily just be inserted into that foam and they will stay in place perfectly. This Dollar Tree pumpkin plate is one of my favorites. It has a gorgeous finish to it. It almost looks like mother of pearl, and the shape is really fun and unique. The color's coming up a little bit different here, but when I show you the finished result, you'll kind of see more of the true color. It really is so beautiful. So I have a really easy DIY for you guys. All you have to do is grab one of these pumpkin plates and one of Dollar Tree's glass candle holders. I'm going to be using my matte white spray paint just to cover my glass candle holder as well as the back of my pumpkin. I don't love the chrome color on the back, so I do just want to paint that a nice neutral color. Next, I'm going to be adding my candle holder to the bottom of my pumpkin plate, and I'm just going to be using my Gorilla Hot Glue sticks. You guys know these are my favorite. I think they work really, really well. I will leave them linked down below, but if you find that you want a stronger hold, definitely use something like E6000 or a more permanent glue. So now that we have our candle holder attached, we're just going to add a little bit of embellishment, and all I'm doing for this is just to take a bunch of twine. I kind of just layered it over a few times. I'm going to mix in a little bit of raffia and just tie it around my candle holder into a bow. And now you have this super cute pumpkin plate that is perfect to display any small object like these pumpkins here. These ones are from Target from a few years ago in their Target dollar spot, or you can even use this as a small candy dish. One of my all-time favorite seasonal decorating hacks is to grab these large 8x10 frames from Dollar Tree and a free printable. So I have these 2 free printables located on my blog for you guys, but I'm going to leave the link to them down below. And all you have to do is print them out. I printed mine on cardstock, and they are sized for these frames, so you can go ahead, trim off that border, and all you have to do is insert them into the frame. It is that simple. It's such a quick hack, and all you have to do is just kind of lean this up against a wall, put a pumpkin next to it, and you are good to go. It is so fast, but it does add a little bit of holiday flair very quickly. Another tip is to frame your print above the glass. That way you don't have the glare and it looks like more of an art print. These acorn and pinecone statues from Dollar Tree have a really great shape to them, but the metallic color is just not really working for me. So there's a really fun way to cover these up and make them look totally different, and that is with chalk paint. Chalk paint is going to cover them up really easily because it's so thick, but it's also going to give them a really fun textured look. And something I like to personally do is just get a big jug of white chalk paint like the one I just showed you. That is my all-time favorite. I'll be sure to link that one down below. And I just get white as my base. That way I can mix different colors into it to achieve the color I'm looking for. That way I don't have to buy a ton of different chalk paints, because chalk paint can be a little bit more expensive than just regular acrylic paint. So this is an easy way just to, achieve a different color, but still just have that white chalk paint on hand that I do use often anyway. And then when I need a smaller project like this, I can just mix a little bit of brown or tan to get this kind of look here. My goal here was for these to look like they were almost made of terracotta. So I kind of went for that same color pattern, a little bit lighter, but that was the overall look I was kind of trying to achieve here. And I do think it really does have that look to it in the final result. It definitely doesn't have that metallic finish. It looks way more neutral and does look a bit more high end. An amazing DIY hack is to use window clings. I know I have talked about this a little bit before, but it truly is an amazing way to make a unique and special DIY project, especially if you do not have a cutting machine. So I actually do have a Cricut now. I have not unboxed it yet. That is on the to-do list. I have to set it up, but I had not had one for years. So this was a DIY that I would always go back to. Every year around fall and Halloween and even Christmas time, I check Dollar Tree to see what different window clings they have. And I tried to envision a project that I could use them in. As soon as I saw this set of fall window clings from Dollar Tree, I knew that these would be perfect for a DIY. So I grabbed my favorite sign, which was this cutting board one here, because I thought this would be perfect in my kitchen. And I painted it white with my white chalk paint to give it a neutral background. And now this is the perfect canvas to add my window clings to. And these window clings in particular are really great because you can see they have a clear background. So it's really going to lend themselves well to this type of project. So I like to just lay them out first. That way I know exactly where I want them to go. And like I said, this is going to go in my kitchen by my coffee bar area. And once I'm happy with the placement, I grab my Mod Podge and apply a layer to my board. Then I smooth it out, put my window cling onto it, and then finally I add a second layer of Mod Podge over the top of my window cling to fully seal it in place. Once you let that dry completely, your sign is finished, and here is how this one turned out. This next DIY was inspired by my love of the fall miniatures at Dollar Tree. So every year I see these mini hay bales and I always think they are the cutest things ever. So I had to come up with a DIY that I could use them in. So for this DIY, you just need one of the shadow boxes from Dollar Tree. They usually have these every year. They do have them again this year in a bunch of different patterns. The pattern does not matter. We just need the box itself. And then you want to grab whichever miniatures you like. So I love the hay bales, so I grabbed some of those and some of these pumpkins. Now the orange pumpkin was a little bit too bright for what I was looking for, so you can just really easily paint these. So I pulled out the pick in the back since we're not going to need that, and I am taking off the stem. I do want to replace that at the end, but it is much easier to paint these if you just pop the stem out first and then put it back in at the end. I'm painting my pumpkins with this white chalk paint that I was using earlier, and I do want to paint some of them orange though, so I will be adding a little bit of orange acrylic paint into the white chalk paint to achieve this color right here. Once they were completely dry, I went in with a brown acrylic paint ever so slightly just to brush in between the grooves of the pumpkins just to give them a little bit of definition. Once they were completely dry, I added the stems back in. So now we are ready to start assembling our mini fall scene. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my sign again. And for this part here, all you have to do is just pull it out to remove it so you have a nice little box to work with. And it does come off pretty easily. You want to get as much of that foam out of there as possible. I really didn't worry about removing the whole background. I just wanted to make sure it was nice and smooth. So I actually do have a free printable for this as well. And again, I'm going to make sure to leave this one linked down below in the video description box. This is just one that says Happy Fall, but you can even just print this out and use this as a size template if you want and cut out any picture you like, or you can even just use some scrapbooking paper. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut this out and then glue it in place. I did print this photo out on cardstock, that way it was just a bit sturdier, and then also it is going to help camouflage that background so you will not see it peeking through. And I just hot glued it in place. You could also use a glue stick for this part. Now is the most fun part. You get to take all of your miniatures and start to play around with them and see where you want to place them. I wasn't really sure what I was going to do here, so I kind of just played around with the placement until I was happy with it. And then once I was happy with how it looked, I just glued everything in place. I do think it turned out so cute, and I do love these little miniatures. I'm definitely going to have to make one for Halloween as well. I'm picturing some kind of spooky house background, maybe with some hay bales and jack-o'-lanterns. Next up, I have a really easy hack. If you love minimalistic fall vibes, this one is for you. So all you need for this DIY are these burlap leaves from Dollar Tree. They have these every year, and they do have them in a bunch of different colors and shapes. I just picked this one here because I do like to decorate pretty neutral. And then you're also going to need this frame from Dollar Tree. So this is another floating glass frame. It's kind of similar to one I showed you earlier, the gold one, where I had put the window clings in them. This is very similar to that, and you could actually use this frame as well for that window cling DIY. But for this DIY, all you have to do is take one of your burlap leaves. You do want to peel off that wire on the back. It comes off very easily. And then you just have to put one of these leaves in between the glass plates. Then you're just going to frame it and you're done. It is that simple, but I love this one because it really does have that very minimalist look to it. It's quick, simple, and you can put it in a corner anywhere and it's going to look great. This next DIY is very similar to the ones I showed you earlier, where we are just going to give these pumpkins a really quick makeover with some matte white spray paint. That's all I did here. You can pick up any of the pumpkins from Dollar Tree for this, but I did want to take these one step further just to make them look a little bit different and extra special. So once I painted them and let them dry, I grabbed some twine, and you can always find twine in the Crafter Square at Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to be hot gluing it around my stem. So for this one here, you really only have to hot glue the first round or two, and then you can kind of just stack it as you go. And then when you get to the top of your pumpkin, you do just want to glue that twine in place. It's really simple, but it does have a really nice look to it when you're done. We're going to be using these burlap leaves from Dollar Tree again. This time, these are the larger ones, and we're going to be making a fall banner. So in addition to these burlap leaves, I also picked up some of the wood beads from Dollar Tree. So these can be found in their Crafter Square. They also have them, I believe, in a cube shape. And they have a few different colors now, so if you can't find the strands, they do sometimes come loose in a bag as well from Dollar Tree. If you really can't find any at Dollar Tree, I'll be sure to link some down below in the video description box. So for this DIY, I'm going to be using these iron-on letters. So these are just transfer paper that I ordered from Amazon. I'm going to leave the links for these down below as well. So you can just print any images on this, and then you just want to cut it out and you can iron it on to any fabric. So that's what I'm going to be doing with these burlap leaves. And I do have the free printable for this one as well, and I'll be sure to link that down below. So I printed out my letters on my inkjet printer, and now I just have to cut them out. The trickiest part was getting those little pieces right there. If you do have a cutting machine, you could skip this entirely and just print out the letters on vinyl with your cutting machine and use that instead. But this is a good solution if you don't have a cutting machine and you rather just do it by hand. You can definitely do it just like this with these iron-ons. Or another option is to just buy the vinyl at Dollar Tree. You want to look for the permanent vinyl, and instead of using a cutting machine to cut out your letters, you can just cut it out by hand. You might want to pick some simple letters, that way it's not too difficult to cut out. I would stick with just a nice block letter, and that way you can still use the adhesive vinyl without cutting it in a machine. When I took my burlap leaves out of the package, those metal wires did come off, and that's okay because I am going to be ironing on my letters, so I don't really want those on right now since they will get in the way. But I will be attaching them back onto my leaves with some hot glue when I want to attach them to my banner. So right now, I'm just taking off that paper backing off of the iron-on vinyl, and I'm just placing it onto my burlap leaves. And then once I have them in place, I'm going to get a piece of parchment paper. This one actually came in the pack with it. So I'm just going to lay this on top and then follow the directions on the package so I can iron these onto my leaves. Dollar Tree does also sell large sticker letters. You can usually find them by the poster board. That would probably work for this as well. If you're just going to be leaving your banner indoors and it's not going to be getting wet, I think the stickers could be another option. So here is how they turned out when I ironed on my vinyl, and now these are ready to go. I'm just hot gluing that metal wire back in place that came with these leaves, but you could also skip this if you just want to attach this to your banner with some string. I figured this would be a nice easy way to attach it to my banner because you can manipulate the wire pretty easily. So once I had glued it back in place, I just kind of bent it over to make a little hook, and then I secured it to my wood bead garland here and just squeezed it in place. That way I could have it nice and secure. And it's easy if you do it like this because if you don't love the placement, you can just move it around without having it set in one place. And this is how it turned out. I am obsessed with this banner. It's one of my favorite Dollar Tree DIYs. I think it is so pretty. Every year, Dollar Tree has these bright orange foam pumpkins, and I'm going to show you a really easy DIY to transform them. So that orange color is a little bit too bright for me, so the first thing we have to do is paint them. So to paint them, I'm just going to go ahead and remove the stem of all three. It pops out pretty easily. They're on like a toothpick, so once you kind of wiggle it, it does come right out. And I'm going to be using my favorite white chalk paint to cover these, and this is going to be a lifesaver because this chalk paint is so thick, it is going to cover up this really bright orange without any problems whatsoever. Painted my first pumpkin white, and for my second pumpkin I just mixed a little bit of acrylic blue paint in with the white chalk paint to achieve the light blue color, and then I did the same thing with my green pumpkin. Now I'm going to go ahead and just paint one of my stems with this brown acrylic paint. We're going to be stacking them on top of each other, so we only need one stem. Next, you're going to need one of the galvanized buckets from Dollar Tree. And this next step is completely optional, but there is a really fun way to add decals to any object you like if you don't have a cutting machine. So this is Waterslide paper. I've used this before in DIYs. I'll be sure to link it down below. It does take a little bit of getting used to when you first work with it, but I do love it for DIYs. So all you have to do is just print out any image you want on an inkjet printer. Then you need to seal it in place with a clear spray paint. Once it's sealed in place, the decal is ready to use, and then you can transfer it onto an object. All you have to do is just put it in a bowl of water for about 30 seconds or so. You want to wet the surface that you're going to be transferring it onto, and that's why it's called a water slide. You actually kind of just slide it in place with water. So now I'm going to go ahead, since that white paper backing came off, I'm going to put my water slide decal onto the galvanized bucket, and then you just want to pat it dry and let it dry completely. It is a really fun technique if you haven't done it before. I really do like it, but again, you can just skip this step, or if you find some really nice stickers at Dollar Tree, you can use those instead, or window clings would also work for this part of the DIY. So now my bucket is ready. All I have to do is just add in my pumpkins, and they do fit really nicely into the bucket. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I'm lining them all up properly. They do have that seam, you can kind of see it. And I'm actually going to be stacking my pumpkins kind of upside down, so the bottom of the pumpkin is nice and flat. That's the part I want to be facing up. So I'm going to go ahead, push my first pumpkin into my bucket. You can glue it in place, but it will stay nicely if you just kind of push it in there a little bit. So for my second pumpkin, I'm going to go ahead and hot glue it on top of my first one. And again, I am stacking it upside down. And then I'm going to do the same thing for my third pumpkin. And finally, I'm just going to take that stem that I painted brown. I'm going to pull out that toothpick and just hot glue it on top. And now you have a little pumpkin topiary. I think this one is really fun and super versatile. If you have a different color palette, you can paint these any color you like, and I think it looks so fun. And that is everything for today. I really hope that you guys enjoyed these Dollar Tree fall tips, tricks, and DIYs. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up. It lets me know that you guys enjoyed the video. And I am working on some brand new fall DIYs that are going to be coming out very soon. So be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss a new video. You can subscribe to my channel by just clicking my picture right here, and be sure to check out this video for some more fall fun.